If you think you've seen all Taipei has to offer, think again. You may have visited all the famous landmarks in urban Taipei, but do you know what relics are lurking in the surrounding hills? If you want to discover some hidden gems, Chen Ying-ching is your man. Since retiring from the publishing business, Chen has dedicated himself to exploring his city by bicycle. Through his many trips, he's formed a biking club where members enjoy the stunning beauty of Taipei's less beaten paths. Our Sunday special report.
第一次来这里的时候，一看到这个景象就
The first time I came here and saw the scenery, I sat over here for 1 hour. I didn't want to leave. This is the lookout with the best views that I have come across in my trips around Greater Taipei. It overlooks the city's landmarks.
This is Chen, an avid biker nicknamed Old Cat. After retiring from the publishing business, he left his days between bookshelves behind to explore Greater Taipei on 2 wheels.
当年呢，玉永河就是从
Back in the day, Yuyonghe sailed in through the Tamsui River's estuary to this place, which back then was known as the Guandu Pass. He would have seen an extremely narrow path through the mountains. Once he sailed through, he was greeted by this vast open space, a lake as far as the eye could see. Back then, this area was known as the Kangxi Taipei Lake.
Mountains encircle the Taipei Basin, where many rivers converge to the sea. But as Taipei grew and modernized, its residents gradually forgot the city's original appearance.
台北本来是因为水而繁荣，因为山而有那样子的气势。如果
Taipei prospered thanks to its rivers, and the mountains gave it its grandeur. If you don't ride a bicycle and you always stick to flat roads, you forget that Taipei was once a city deeply intertwined with its mountains and waterways.
Nowadays, buses and the MRT form the backbone of Taipei's transport networks. Add cars in the mix, and no place is ever out of reach. But speeding about the city comes at the cost of missing out on a more profound experience.
是我骑的呢，叫做大台北开发史。
One of the trails I bike on is called the History and Development of Taipei. I link up Xinzhuang Old Street, Mongat, Dadaochang, and Dalongdong into one route. It happens to match up quite well with the order in which the different old streets in Greater Taipei developed.
The bike tours take participants to breathtaking sights. It all started with Chen riding alone. Now he leads a bike club that has gained more than 1,200 members in just over a year.
这里大家会看到有很多马赛克拼贴的，啊。
Over here, we can see a lot of mosaics that look like old vinyl covers. That's because last century, before CDs were invented, Sanchong was the main hub for vinyl production in Taiwan.
As part of Chen's bike club, you can ride a bicycle while learning about history. Members from all walks of life have joined. The oldest cyclist in the club is Liu Pingfa, who's 76 years old.
你有在骑车的话，腿的肌肉
When you bike, the muscles on the leg, the quads, they get conditioned. I'm old, so I can't avoid feeling some pain and soreness in my joints. But if I cycle, I can recover from pain faster than if I weren't exercising.
Liu's bicycle is more than 20 years old and has joined him in many a challenging ride.
而且骑脚踏车的，你可以活动的范围
A bicycle expands your scope of activity. You can cover more distance than by walking or hiking. When it's not raining, I ride my bike to Danshui, Maokong, or Wulai. They are all beautiful places.
The youngest in the group is still in middle school.
爸爸觉得骑车是个非常好的事情，然后他也非常希望我。
My dad thinks biking is great, and he really hoped I would go cycle. So I joined this bike club. Every time we go out, it's very rewarding. We don't just bike, we also hear about the history of the places.
第一个你要坐垫高度。OK 的。OK。好，这样差不多。好，坐垫高度。
Martin Zhang is one of the club's enthusiastic volunteers. Before the club sets off on adventures, he helps newcomers make sure their bikes are shipshape.
好了，那我们现在要出发了。
马丁回报，全员出发。
现在来这个小山头呢，是蒋渭水的纪念。
Today, the route starts at Jiangweishui Memorial Square, then continues uphill along Chongde Road. Chen says the slope isn't too steep, making it a great route for training. Here, you can also find the biggest burial grounds in Taipei. Follow the road and you pass the Muslim cemetery, the Baichongxi Cemetery, and a graveyard for victims of the White Terror. One of the better-known figures buried here is woodcut artist Huang Rongcan, who carved an iconic print about the February 20th incident.
黄荣灿呢是个版画家。
Huang Rongcan was a woodblock artist. He carved a print portraying the 228 incident called The Terrible Inspection. It shows his feelings at the moment of the inspection. He was later arrested.
Taipei is surrounded by hillsides dotted with tombs, from which former residents watch over their descendants.
Across from us is the Tamsui River. To the left is the Guanyin mountain ridge. To the right is the mountain behind the Wugu Xiyun temple. Put in feng shui terms, the azure dragon is on the left and the white tiger is on the right. Behind us is the main peak of Guanyin Mountain. In front of it is the Tamsui River, which brings in prosperity and riches. So many graves and tombs enjoy very favorable feng shui. Over these years of visits to these cemeteries, I came up with a very detailed itinerary I call Taipei's Pantheon. You can bike from mountain to mountain and visit different eras and leaders. Former revolutionaries, politicians, thinkers, and people in the arts and culture, people who made contributions in different fields.
我们一群古墓骑兵就出动了，啊，一个点一个点的去怪怪，这每一个点。
We're a bunch of tomb raiders going from one spot to another, and getting to each spot is hardly a piece of cake. You have to carry your bicycle and lug it uphill to see the more famous people. Why is that? Graveyards aren't usually located in the plains. They are mostly up in the mountains, in places with good open views and with good feng shui. These kinds of places are often on mountaintops.
Most people try to stay clear of graveyards. For Chen, they are an interesting place to explore with his bike buddies.
就去台北的郊区那边的蒙阿波，他那边就是讲有关白色恐怖的。
On the outskirts of Taipei, he tells about the history of the White Terror, from the memorial arches to the tombstones. I've learned so many things.
你很渴望在骑乘的这个过程里面。
During the bike trips, you really want to see things you don't usually see. So I think this kind of real-life learning experience can teach children so much more than they would glean from the facts alone.
Besides taking his bike buddies on rides around Taipei, Chen is also working on designing unique itineraries so that people from outside the city get to know its history.
山水台北城这个计划是可以让外地的车友
I'm planning an itinerary called Taipei's Mountains and Rivers that cyclists from outside the city can follow to do some sightseeing. You need a bike, but this tour of Taipei's past and present takes you to some beautiful locations. If you complete the itinerary, I think your understanding of Taipei will change.
From the hills, the Taipei Basin appears completely covered in buildings, but plenty of lush greenery abounds in places not readily reachable on foot. Taking a bike ride to places can be as enriching as diving into 1,000 books. So if you want to do some exercise, why not go for a ride?